Green Party there. And Japan has a constitution that's famous, sets a model for being a pacifist constitution, and it puts out in writing how we shall never ever go to war. After World War II, that was the constitution. And recently, this month, the current government has put forward a proposal to reinterpret the meaning of that phrase and to allow Japan to go into war again. And as a result, there were enormous social protests across the country. And the Greens, the Japanese Greens, were very involved in these protests because they also care a lot about nonviolence and believe strongly that we need to have policies and legislation and governments which embody and ensure that we would be able to preserve a peaceful country and a peaceful world. So that's why our values start to get translated to political action. And let's see. Also, in other forms that policy is being put into action, nowadays climate change is one of those really mobilizing topics that affect people all around the world. And there's a need for some sort of agreement in which all countries and industries and up to civil society can agree on the same strategy for lowering these emissions that we all need to do together. So that's another arena in which Greens across the globe are working together to try to realize this commitment to lowering CO2 concentration in the atmosphere from our village level all the way up to global governance. So that's where the global part of the title comes from, the Taiwan Friends, the Global Greens. Not only are we located around the globe, because there's green parties in over 90 countries of the world, and actually we're organized according to federations. So the Americas, both North America and South America, have green parties, and they have the Americas Federation. You have green parties in Africa, and then you have green parties in Europe, who have actually achieved a lot of electoral success and have seats in the European Parliament. And then we have in Asia a lot of green parties as well, from very mature parties that have parliament to parliamentarians, such as in New Zealand and Australia, as well as in Mongolia, to the very emergent new democracies, which are just trying to learn how do you do democracy and how do you try to advance a different ideology, a different way forward for a sustainable future for our society. We exist globally, but also we think globally, and I think that's what makes Greens rather special. Because our starting point is that we look at all issues from a global perspective, rather than maybe just silo thinking, where maybe other parties might look at it from one issue alone, separately. The Greens try to see the connections between transportation and education, environment, electricity, and all the different parts of a society. How do you assist sustainable change that includes all the different sectors of society moving together? So we have a systemic view. That's what we mean when we say ecological thinking. We try to think, how would Mother Nature solve this problem? How can we think ecologically amongst all the connections? So that's partially what really inspired me about the Greens and what got me involved in the first place. So maybe just a little bit more, more about why I'm here. I got involved in the Greens in 2009 because a friend invited me to a meeting, similar to many of you, a friend invited you to something that maybe you didn't know what you're getting involved in. And I started to listen to each person's stories around the table, and I felt really inspired. At that meeting, there were some Greens from India, and I asked them, how did you get involved in politics? I mean, it's such a big game, it's so complicated. Why? And they told me how they noticed the trees getting cut down around their village. And they asked why, and nobody gave a good answer. So they kept asking why. And they found that no one was standing up to stop the cutting. And the more they asked questions, the more they realized that they had to be that leader. That they had to be the one to stand up and say no. And represent the voice of all the people in their village. And then they eventually got involved, formed a party in their state and are contesting elections. So otherwise, they're just quite average people. Normally, you only see politicians on television, and they seem like these faraway creatures, kind of distant and objectified in a way. But it was at that moment in these one-to-one conversations I learned that they're no different than me. They're just simply people who care about their life. And then I learned about those values, those 6 core values, respect for diversity and so forth. And I realized those are the same things I value. And that's why I suddenly felt I found my tribe. I found, it's amazing, I thought I was all alone in the world that believed in these things, like nonviolence, like respect for diversity. These are core to my own life. And so I just kept showing up to hang out with them more. And one thing about the Greens is that when they're quite open. Whenever there's a meeting, everyone's always invited. And that's how I got more involved. So there was a meeting, and there are a bunch of passionate people. There's always a lot of work to do. They asked who would be willing to build our website. I said, oh yeah, I'll try. And so I got involved in building our first website for the Asia-Pacific region. And then suddenly, who wants more opportunities? And it's very open. Anyone who wants to do anything can do something. It's volunteer and passion-based. And so that's where step by step I got more and more involved until now it's basically my full-time job working with the Greens. Because they emphasize giving opportunities to people like me who are young, who are female, and I feel that it would be rather difficult to get such leadership opportunities in the normal mainstream methods through my company or through my other institutions. So that's how I eventually got the position of working as a convener of the Asia-Pacific region and then representing Asia at the global level. So that's a bit of my background, how I got involved. And back to the Taiwan Friends of the Global Greens, our job is to try to connect Taiwan locally to all the information, all the activities that are happening globally, and both two-way direction. How do we learn about and get involved in what's happening? Let's say there's opportunities like events that we could attend where we can represent Taiwan, or perhaps there's issues and that we have a chance to express our opinion on. Then Taiwan Friends of the Global Greens enables people to attend these meetings, as well as gain access to information through our translators, through our website, and through discussions like this, where we bring people together to talk about issues of social relevance. And that's the activities and the purpose of the Taiwan Friends of the Global Greens. So in a moment, you're about to experience that yourself. So a bit of background. Is that enough, or do you have any other questions? Okay, back to you, Joyce.
Thank you, Kelly. It's been very